Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us at the METRORapid University Corridor Virtual Meeting tonight. My name is Yuhaina Mahmoud, and I am the project manager for the University Corridor project. Before we begin the meeting, I'd like to go over the procedures for this evening's Zoom webinar. Only panelists will appear on the screen. To ask a question, please enter it into the Q&A box. I want to make that very clear. The chat is disabled, so you need to enter your questions into the Q&A box. We will answer questions in the order received, and any questions that require additional research or that are where we run out of time to answer those questions, we will make sure to provide those in writing. We will collect those, and in a couple of weeks, we'll be posting those on our website, the FAQs. This meeting ends at 7:30 p.m. For any questions not answered before the meeting closes, they may also be submitted to the ridemetro.org/university. Again, if you have not had a chance to submit your question, please provide it to the ridemetro.org/university. And we will be answering those questions in there as well. Tonight, we will be presenting a brief background of the project, an overview of the top concerns that we heard during our public engagement phase 2 in July of 2022, this last year. When we return from the video, we will discuss in more detail the feedback that we received from that public engagement process, and even the last couple of weeks, the last few days when we have received some questions at the meetings. And we will let you know what Metro has been doing to address those questions that we have received in the past, and sort of inform you where we are today with those questions as well. Then we will be providing some Q&A in those areas at the end of this meeting after the video. Our panelists today are University Corridor Program Management Consultant David Leard. We have also Aubin Pickens, Metro Deputy Project Manager. And Jose Pulido, Metro Manager of Government Affairs. When we return from the presentation, Jose Pulido will recognize the elected officials in attendance, and our panelists will begin taking your questions. Thank you for viewing the presentation tonight.
Just like you, we have our eye on the future. Metro is excited to share the progress we have made since last summer when we talked with the public about the METRORapid University Corridor Project. The METRORapid Corridor Project is part of the Metro Next Moving Forward plan approved by nearly 70% of Houston area voters in 2019. The vote followed extensive public involvement in developing that plan. This map shows projects included in Metro Next. The pink lines are the proposed 75 miles of new Metro Rapid service. Blue lines are 16 miles of Metro Rail extensions. There are 110 miles of new improved express lanes planned, and the orange lines are our Boost and Signature service with 290 miles of improvements to our existing high-frequency bus routes. We also have other system-wide enhancements, such as upgrades to transit centers and park and rides and other passenger amenities. METRORapid is similar to Metro Rail, but runs on rubber tires. METRORapid will run in its own dedicated lane and have stations and platforms similar to rail, but smaller in size. The Silver Line, operating on Post Oak Boulevard in Uptown and serving the Northwest and Uptown transit centers, is an example of METRORapid service. The proposed University Corridor runs just over 25 miles with 44 stations. It travels from the West Chase Park and Ride on the west side all the way to the Tidwell Transit Center in the northeast. It includes stops at the Gessner Park and Ride, Hillcroft Transit Center, Uptown Transit Center, Wheeler Transit Center, Eastwood Transit Center, and Fifth Ward Denver Harbor Transit Center. Segment 1 of the line will operate mostly in Metro-owned right-of-way next to West Park Drive and transition to the middle of West Park Drive into City of Houston right-of-way at I-610. Segments 2 through 5 will operate in dedicated lanes within existing City of Houston right-of-way. At this point in the process, we're still in project development with the Federal Transit Administration and are performing all background analysis required to achieve what is called categorical exclusion in the environmental review process. This action is required when a project involves federal funding. We do not anticipate any significant environmental impacts related to this project, but we must complete all studies according to the National Environmental Policy Act. This includes looking at wetlands, trees, property impacts, historic resources, traffic, and archaeological resources. Right now, we are in a 2-year project development timeframe that ends in September of 2023. We are set to complete the NEPA process and 30% design in March to April of this year so we can submit an application to the FTA for a 6-month review. The project will then enter the design and engineering phase for approximately 18 months, after which construction is expected to begin. All 5 segments of the project will be designed and constructed at the same time. Since the summer of 2021, Metro has engaged with the community about this project. We have received over 600 comments, and we are making some project modifications based on the feedback we have received. Our engagement efforts included public meetings, coordination with elected officials, briefings with management districts, neighborhood associations, schools, and universities. We've shared information at many community outreach events. Public feedback was received through community surveys, our public comment portal, and we've shared information through social and traditional media, including local community papers and community distribution networks. Thanks to all who have participated in this process, providing important feedback. We want to share what we've heard and how we're responding. So through public engagement, concerns have been identified. Let's share examples and how Metro has taken action to address those concerns. Concerns about property acquisition. Metro has identified right-of-way needs for the project at this moment of design. However, as we continue to advance design, we are working to minimize or remove any impacts that may occur by making adjustments to lanes and sidewalks through our ongoing coordination with the City of Houston. Metro is working to identify how trees can be saved. A tree inventory was completed for this project, and we are coordinating with the City of Houston arborist and abiding by the city's tree ordinance. Metro will work with communities to devise solutions and maintenance plans. Railway crossings are a concern raised particularly in segments 4 and 5 along the Lockwood corridor. At this time, the design is advancing with METRORapid lanes over the railroad crossings. However, Metro is committed to looking for partners in the region and funding to carry general purpose lanes and bicycle and pedestrian facilities over the railroad crossings as well. We have also heard in the last few weeks the desire of the community for the current design to include bike and pedestrian facilities. Metro is applying principles of crime prevention through environmental design to enhance station safety, and we are coordinating with Metro Police to determine future staffing needs as the system expands. During this meeting, we have a station that highlights some of the safety features identified for this project. Metro is identifying businesses in relation to the project, so we can begin to understand business operations and gain input to minimize disruptions. A business outreach plan is being developed, and we expect to begin meetings with business owners soon. One of the concerns you have identified is congestion on some of the right-of-ways related to the project. Metro continues to perform detailed traffic analysis on these segments to determine potential impacts of the project with future growth. In addition to providing more transit choices needed as a result of the population growth in the region, this new service will allow more connections to existing Metro services, increase access to jobs, healthcare, and education opportunities. It is also designed to provide 100% accessibility to all residents with buses with wider doors and level boarding. This corridor will serve dense communities and employment centers, advance transit equity, and support a sustainable and healthy future for our region. The METRORapid University Corridor project passes through a number of Houston communities and serves the University of Houston, Texas Southern University, St. Thomas University, and 3 Houston Community College campuses. This project will strengthen communities by improving resiliency since drainage along the project will be upgraded. By dedicating a lane to METRORapid, this project can move people in less space, provide top-of-the-line service for the region, improve access to jobs, education, and economic opportunities while increasing connectivity. The project will provide new sidewalks and accessibility ADA ramps along the entire 25 miles. So what are the next steps? Well, Metro's Board of Directors adopted the locally preferred alternative of the route. 30% of the design work will be completed by the end of April. The NEPA process will be completed about the same time frame, clearing the way for approval to begin the engineering phase. The public engagement process will continue throughout the life of the project. So here is how you can help make the most of your presence here today. Please walk around the room and visit with project staff. Please visit our website for more information. And today you can take a survey on your phone or on a tablet, or provide comments on card or by speaking with a court reporter. Thank you for your participation in making public transportation better for all of Harris County.
Before we get started with your questions, Metro's Manager of Government Affairs, Jose Polito, will recognize the elected officials and staff who had joined us for this meeting. Jose?
Yes, thank you, Alvin. Just want to, again, this is Jose Polito with Metro's Government Affairs team. Just wanted to recognize a couple of people that are here with our elected officials in the region. I have Europa and Eric with Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee's office. And I also have Kathy Ruford Daniels with State Senator Boris Miles's office. And I know that Ms. Ruford Daniels is also a trustee for the HISD. We also have someone here from Commissioner Leslie Briones' office, and that is Alice Lee and also Nada. And we have someone here from Councilmember Carlos Cisneros' office, Emily. And then we also have someone here from Councilmember Kasich Tatum's office, Didi. And if I happen to miss anyone, If you can just provide it in the chat, I hopefully captured everyone, but if for some reason I did not mention someone here, and I see that there is Rolando is here from State Senator Carol Alvarado's office. Sorry about that, Ronaldo. Thank you for mentioning that you were here. And give it a couple of seconds to see if anybody else puts anything in the chat. Doesn't look like it. So appreciate all of our individuals for joining us today from our elected official offices. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jose. As you saw in the video, Metro received feedback on the project from the community during our last round of public meetings in phase 2. And we continue to have and to hear from you and ongoing discussions in our meetings with stakeholders and community groups. We would like to take a couple of minutes to expand on the concerns referenced on this video, as well as some other feedback we have received and we are working to address. We received comments on corridor-wide impacts, as well as some more focused segment-specific questions. So I will go through some of those, but I just want to remind you that we are using the Q&A box to get your questions. And as soon as I'm done sort of discussing some of the feedback that we have heard and how Metro is responding to it, Abin will begin to look at those questions, and we will begin the Q&A panel session. So one of the concerns and questions that we have received during our meetings and our we have public comments that have been coming through on our website is there a possibility that the BRT line will be converted into basically a rapid transit instead of being a bus lane could be converted into rail. And no, at this point, this project was part of the Metro Next program, which was voted by almost 70% of the voters in 2019, and is the 20-year plan for this region for transit. And so this line was shown on that map as Bus Rapid Transit, and that is what it's going to be. And why Bus Rapid Transit? For multiple reasons. Overall, because the voters voted for it, but also it is more flexible and is as efficient as the rail. And it's faster than the local bus service. It requires overall less right of way, so there's less impact to property. And we would be able to use less taxpayer funds because it's less costly, and it'll allow us to take the money that the voters allowed us to use farther in our projects. Will the project improve drainage along the corridor? Was one of the questions, and I just wanted to sort of give you a short answer in terms of all the benefits of the project. So this project is going to be a curb-to-curb project. We are basically repurposing a traffic lane for the purpose of using the bus. And we will be improving all the sidewalks along. This project is a 25-mile project, like you saw on the video. We will be improving drainage as well as sidewalks all along the entire project. And so, yes, there's going to be definitely drainage improvements according to the latest requirements for flood improvements. We also were asked about reliability of BRT versus regular buses, and because we are using one lane that is exclusively for the bus, and we are going to be coordinating it with signal priority. We're going to be coordinating the signals for this project. That means that this will be a rapid service. Do we have roadway improvements and sidewalk improvements? And we are going to have sidewalk improvements all along the corridor, on both sides of the corridor. We also are looking at station access plans for each of the stations. At this point, we have, like you saw in the video, 44 stations. And so we are looking at improving connections to specific destinations that are around those 44 stations. And so we will be looking at doing that as well. That's part of the improvement of the project. In terms of access and station locations. We have been, we're advancing to 30%, like the video mentioned, and we are looking at, specific locations. So we have several park and rides that will be served. So those will serve as stops, and then there will be stations that are located in the center closest to the intersections, which is another benefit of this project, is increasing safety along the entire corridor. Where there are openings between esplanades today, on unsignalized intersections, people can make a U-turn or take a left turn. And in those cases, when people are also trying to cross the street, or bikers or bicyclists are trying to cross the street and cars are turning, those are some of the highest incidents of accidents across the city. And so that will be an increased safety feature. We have also been asked about, how can pedestrians cross if we are only going to be providing crossings at signalized, basically crosswalks at signalized stations. And what we are doing is that we have been working to look at where there is a large space between lights. We're working with the city. We have identified certain pedestrian crossings. And we will be working on treatments to make sure that bicycles and pedestrians can cross at those crossings safely. We continue to in our meetings this week, and today we invite you to let us know if there's any specific areas where you feel like there needs to be a safe crossing for pedestrians or bicyclists, and we'd be glad to to look at that with the design team. There's questions about the location of the stations. We have chosen those based on connectivity to other bus routes, so people can provide can use the service to connect to other lines along the that cross east-west or north-south, depending on when you're in the corridor, so you can connect to those other buses. And also close to destinations. So we have, places like, Greenway Plaza, close to the Minnell, Wheeler Transit Center, all the transit centers and park and rides along the corridor, and where we know that there is destinations, the LBJ Hospital adjacent to that. So where there's destinations all along the corridor, we've made sure that we have provided a station at those locations. We also have questions about right-of-way and what is Metro doing and how much right-of-way is going to be needed. And like I mentioned, because it is a bus rapid transit, we're going to be needing less right-of-way than a project as the rail would be. The project goal is to stay within the existing right-of-way as much as possible. However, we anticipate some right-of-way needs for this project to accommodate stations, elevated structures, and to address left turns at certain locations for car traffic. So our intent really is to minimize these right-of-way acquisitions, and we continue to refine the design. We are right now, like I mentioned, close to 30%, but we continue to refine the design to minimize those potential property needs along the entire corridor. We also were asked questions in the previous round of meetings and lately about crime prevention. And like the video showed, we are incorporating crime prevention through environmental design techniques to enhance safety, including eliminating hiding places on the station platforms, adding kiosks where customers and residents can call the police, installing cameras at all stations, providing 24-hour surveillance, and installing lighting on the platforms. We are also expanding our services. We will be expanding police presence on new lines as the entire Metro Next plan evolves. And Metro will develop a plan to provide coverage on the new line as well. Have we recovered from COVID, ridership from COVID, post-COVID? Right now, currently, Metro is currently at 75% of pre-COVID levels, and we anticipate a full recovery growth in the upcoming years, and especially as we start connecting all of these projects together, that people will have more destinations to go to, and we definitely will increase ridership. But we are, like I mentioned, already at 75%. How frequently will the line be running? I think this was mentioned in the video, but it's worth mentioning again. It's every 6 minutes on weekdays. That is the plan for operation right now, and every 12 minutes in the early morning, late night, and weekends. We've also have been asked about the existing routes on the areas of Richmond, especially in Lockwood, and we are developing a service plan. So as soon as the locally preferred alternative is approved, we're already beginning, but we just start looking at where there is gaps in the service that were serviced by other routes, but we will be not duplicating service where the BRT is going to be existing. There are a lot of mature trees on the proposed alignment, and in the video there was mentioned that we will be preserving the trees. We will be trying to minimize impacts to the trees, but we are definitely going above and beyond. There is a tree ordinance basically saying that we would be replacing trees or paying a fee. We're intending on working with the communities along the corridor and making sure that we're preserving trees and planting new trees and going above and beyond the minimum requirements of the city ordinance. We understand the need to provide pedestrian basically shade with these trees, and it's very important for the project as well as the environment of the city for this to be something that is taken into account. And so we're taking this very seriously. We have done inventory of all the trees along the alignment, and like I mentioned, we are working with the city arborist to make sure that we work and make sure to save as many trees as we can, and those that are impacted, we want to make sure that that we are planting new trees in those areas. Do we have? I think there are others, and I will continue to bring the feedback. But if we want to start answering some questions.
Right, thanks, Johanna. We will go ahead and start taking questions from the Q&A chat now. And we have already received a number of questions. There's about 25 in there so far. So we're going to go start in the order that questions have been received. So the first question is, why have y'all determined that a bridge over Harrisburg is the best option? Do you have any examples of how you have done this in other historic neighborhoods?
So we have been, when we met with the Eastwood Civic Association and others in the community, feedback on our second round of public engagement, we wanted to have a grade separated facility because we want to have a rapid service along the entire service area where this alignment is going. And we know that there is mobility issues in that community and across the communities and segments 4 and 5, which are basically north of Lockwood, where the railroads are crossing because their trains get stopped there. And so we proposed to go over the railroad tracks in that area. As we have looked to see if there is a possibility for going under, we have looked at the flooding in that area, the floodplain maps in that area, and it's shown that there is a very low point south and where we would be crossing south of Harrisburg, and that the railroad track is actually acting as a levee holding the water back on the north side of the railroad track, so that if we were to open a hole under the railroad tracks, what we would do is basically open that levee and allow for the water to start flooding neighborhoods to the south of the railroad track. So that is definitely not something that we want to recommend or pursue. And so we are at this time recommending the bus only lane over the railroad tracks. We have also heard as of this last set of meetings in the last couple of weeks that the community would really like to have pedestrian facility going over the railroad tracks, specifically at the Harrisburg, Clinton. And so we are looking at adding that pedestrian facility to go over as well, for people to be able to cross the railroad tracks over the railroad through sidewalks along that overpass. David, you want to add something?
Yeah, just I think that's really good explanation of why we're going over. And the other point that they were asking about was how the bridge might interact with the neighborhood. And we are committed, Metro is committed to working with our art and transit program and some other aesthetic design services to bring the project in and make the bridge and try to make the bridge an asset for the community. In the same meeting that Johanna mentioned, where the community asked about the ped bike access, they've also asked us about shrinking the median so that we don't create a place for encampments, those kind of things. So we'll continue as the design advances to work with the community to create what we hope will be an asset for the community.
All right, next question. Why was the route shifted southward from Wheeler to Blodgett?
So we shifted actually from Blodgett to Wheeler. So there was, when we went out to the public back in July, there were concerns regarding the alignment going on Blodgett. So currently in our maps on the website, because we're still showing the publication from last time, it shows the Blodgett alignment, but within the new meetings and in the new material that we will be placing on the website, we will be going on Wheeler. And the reason that we changed from Blodgett to Wheeler is because as we started looking at our design, we heard from the community that there were concerns about right-of-way impacts. And as we started looking at that closely, there is wider right-of-way in Wheeler for us to be able to go through that area. And we wanted to keep it in that southern part of the corridor because we want to make sure, part of the feedback was also wanting to make sure that Texas Southern University and the Third Ward community were considered and served as any other part of the corridor. So what we've done since July of last year when we came out to the meetings is we moved it back to Wheeler, and we have looked at minimizing right-of-way impacts along that area. So we're going on Wheeler all the way to Elgin, and then we turn north on Ennis to Elgin from that area.
Okay, next question. Can you tell me how my neighborhood will be able to access westbound Richmond? I'm in Roseland, which is east of Montrose, south of Richmond, and west of Spur 527.
So we have heard from a couple of communities in the last few weeks regarding access, as we're doing some closures of streets that are not signalized. And so there are two areas where we have specifically looking at adding back or adding a full signal, and that is at Graustark and at Stanford, which I think Stanford is the one where your neighborhood, specifically Roseland, you're having concerns about. So we have heard from those two communities that they would have challenges accessing in circulation for their neighborhoods. And so we are looking at a light at Stanford, like I mentioned on that side, and then segment, that's more like a segment 3 question. And then in segment 2, it's the Graustark light. Anything else, David?
I was going to say, in talking to the stakeholders there, we've heard about significant crashes related to unsignalized crossings, especially in Stanford. So the BRT project, adding that signal will actually create a much safer crossing for the community to the destination on both sides of Stanford.
Next question. If the route will be on Blodgett Street, can we have a station on Alameda Road between Wheeler and Blodgett? There are a number of businesses along Alameda Road that will be burdened by the construction. but won't have the light at the end of the tunnel of easy station access.
So we have a station proposed right now at Alameda and Wheeler. And then as we move on that corridor, the next station would be at Wheeler and Emancipation. And I'm not sure that I answered that question completely, but we'll make sure that when we look at this question, we'll go back and see. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, so the project is no longer going from Wheeler to Alameda to Blodgett. So the question was about impacts in that area. So since the project is going straight down Wheeler, it won't be those negative impacts from construction along, and there'll still be a station at Wheeler and Alameda. So that community will still benefit from a station without having the construction directly in Alameda.
Next, is there an updated total cost estimate for this line?
Not yet. So when we achieve the 30%, we will be doing another cost estimate for the project at 30%. So the project was costed out at 15% design, and we will be in the end of April. We will have our 30% design, and at that time, we will reassess the cost of the project.
Next, how is this project going to affect properties in the projected path of the new rail? Will property buyouts be necessary?
So we have, like I mentioned, we're not to 30% design yet, so it's early. And right now, what we have been, we will have some property impacts, and some feet along the corridor that will be needed, and we expect to have some property needs at the corners where we have stations. But we will continue to evaluate that as we move forward with design, and like I mentioned, we are trying to minimize any property acquisitions or property needs for the project as we move forward.
Just to clarify again on that question, the question was about building Metro Rail. We're building METRORapid, so we're not building the rail track. And as Johanna previously mentioned, the right of way is not quite as wide as needed for the rail line.
Next question. Will traffic signals implement leading pedestrian intervals?
The traffic signals will include traffic crossing for pedestrians. It won't necessarily have leading signals at all the locations. As we work through the final design, we'll identify locations where the lead signals will be included, but they will be, every signal will have crossings on all four lanes of the intersection for pedestrians.
And this next question is kind of long. I'm going to abridge it a little bit. This question is specific to segment 4. Eastwood is a historic neighborhood with some of the oldest homes in the city dating to the early 20th century. Lockwood Drive is the main north-south thoroughfare. The Metro project as proposed would tear out every mature oak tree between McKinney and Harrisburg and replace it with a giant overpass. It will create a wall that will prohibit vehicles and people from crossing Lockwood at Rusk or Walker. While I support BRT, is there any possibility that the overpass will not happen?
David.
Yeah, so I think Johanna kind of went into detail about why we're going with an overpass versus an underpass. So currently, if the project advances right now, it'll be advancing with an overpass. We have looked at and have kind of two options that we'd like to get community feedback on related to what the alignment looks like in segment 4. So aside from where the bridge structure is, well, even where the bridge structure is, the trees in the median where the bridge structure is would obviously be impacted, but the roadway design, we are going to shrink up the roadway and bring the curb into the existing roadway. So there's most of the large trees in that segment are actually back a curb, not in the median. The ones in the median are relatively small. The real large mature trees are in the existing pedestrian realm, and all those trees, based on our current plans, will stay in place. As Johanna mentioned previously, we will work with the community to add trees back. We have right now allowed for planting strips along between the curb and the pedestrian sidewalk, so we can create and add new trees there for a shaded walkway. And then we also have, like I mentioned earlier, 2 options outside of where the bridge is in segment 4. One that would maintain as many of the meetings as we can aside from where the bridge is. And then another option that brings the entire road in, takes out all the medians, but creates a really wide planting area on the outside adjacent to where the pedestrian realm is. So we'll have more information on that when all the material gets posted at the end of this week, or if you come to a segment 4 meeting, you can see that information.
Yeah, I guess that is worth mentioning right now. We are conducting in-person meetings as well, and we're doing them by segment. So we have some material that will be posted on the website, but right now, we're encouraging individuals in the community to come to the meetings. We have printed large boards explaining, the width of the lanes, different segments and what we're doing, pedestrian crossings, what areas are signalized. And we have all those meetings staffed with all the teams at the board, so you can come and ask questions directly from the team, and they have been very well attended. And so we want to also encourage you, if you have time and you have a chance to come visit with us during the public meetings in the next few weeks. And we have those posted on ridemetro.org/university. We'll have the meeting dates and times are posted there. So we encourage you to also attend the meetings. I wanted to sort of go back to some of the feedback that we heard from the community in the last few weeks, and some of the questions that have been asked about will there be on-site parking at the various stations. So we have various park and rides and transit centers along the route. So we will have parking at the West Chase Park and Ride, the Lower Uptown Transit Center, the Gessner Park and Ride, Hillcroft Transit Center, and the Wheeler Transit Center. And we are, there's no specific parking provided at each of the stations, but we do have several facilities along the alignment where you can park and ride the university corridor. Will there be parking at the stations? At this time, we are not providing parking at the stations, but we're definitely going to be working moving forward, looking at opportunities on the right of way with management districts and with the city to locate any bike parking like we have done previously in the existing lanes. So we're lines, meaning the existing BRT and the LRT. We have been looking at opportunities to provide bicycle parking on that area. What type of lighting is being provided for my safety is one of the questions that we had heard from the community. Safety and lighting was a concern. Segment 1 is mostly on, is part of it is on Metro right of way, and we will be providing lighting along that area. We are meeting the city code regarding lighting all along the corridor. There will be lighting at the stations, and where we need to be replacing or adding lighting along the corridor for the entire 25 miles. We will do so for the project. What are the pedestrian safety measures that are put in place, and how are pedestrians being considered? We will have, like I mentioned, accessible sidewalks and ADA ramps along the entire 25 miles. Metro has identified crossings where we will provide crossings for bike and pedestrian crossings, and then provide design treatments that will allow safe crossing for all of the pedestrians and bicyclists. And we also, the city of Houston, we work with the high injury network in terms of Vision Zero to materialize Vision Zero and make sure that we're making all the improvements possible regarding safety and minimizing and working with our designers to make sure that we minimize any existing, high areas that are in the high injury network, to make sure that we make roadway modifications to improve the safety in those areas.
Next question is, how far south does the plan extend in the city? And I suspect this might be referencing the Metro Next plan, not just the METRORapid University project.
So we have several projects with the Metro Next plan that include extension to the rail to Hobby Airport. We also have boost corridors, which is enhancements to existing high frequency bus routes. And so any of those there's 17 corridors, and there's, north, south, and east, west. There's corridors that will be going all the way for example, the 54 Scott, that all go way south to the MLK clinic. And so it's difficult for me without the map to show, but we have definitely, equity is a big important part of our Metro Next plan. And so service will be provided the entire region. This project doesn't go south, it goes east-west. It starts at a little bit west of Beltway 8. And then it goes into the universities around TSU and U of H, the Wheeler Transit Center. It crosses the existing Silver Line BRT. We connect to that service, all rapid services. So basically the light rail, which is the red, the purple, and the green, are crossed by the service, and then we go north. So this particular line is not going to go south, but we definitely have other projects in the program of Metro Next to deliver services to the south and to the entire region.
Can right turn blank out signs be implemented to enhance vehicle yielding rates for pedestrians when turning? So I think that means like a no right turn on red sign be put at these intersections.
So we will have no right turn on red signs when we have, like, if you're on Richmond, because vehicles will be making U-turns, we'll have no right turn on red from the parallel street. So we can work with the city to look to extend those for the full head signal phase.
Will Richmond maintain at least 4 general traffic lanes throughout the line's route?
No, there'll be from Edlow to Kirby, where there's currently 6 regular traffic lanes, there'll be 4, and then from Kirby east, where there's currently 4 general traffic lanes, there'll be 2. We have been working with the city on the traffic and are able to move the traffic through it at an acceptable level for the city, which mostly is, without going into a lot of detail, is considered a level of service D. But we have been working, the most important thing is we've been working very closely with the city. They have reviewed and approved or in agreement with all the plans that we have to date. We're committed to making the corridor a better place for all to be, and we're not going to do that at the total cost of any one type of mode, like cars or people.
Next, will all sidewalks be built at least 6 feet wide per City of Houston thoroughfare standards?
Yes, we've been working with the city to provide a pedestrian accessible corridor, and so the minimum of 6-foot sidewalk, and we also have buffer that is a safety buffer in front of the like between the sidewalk and the vehicular traffic. So we're trying to maintain that. There is like we're there in areas we will have a little bit of wider sidewalks even, but because we want to minimize right of way impacts and the needs for that, we want to make sure that we balance that between right of way impacts and the sidewalk. But we will have ADA accessible sidewalks along the entire corridor.
Where have you shared a map with all of the right of way impacts?
We have now at our meetings, we have printed segment maps and several boards that we are showing at this time, sort of like the worst case scenario, because like I mentioned, we are at almost 30%. And so we're going to continue to try to minimize those right of way impacts and work with the city in terms of, the width of the sidewalks and some, we've received recently some additional feedback from the community saying they want to save the trees rather than have a wider sidewalk, etc. So we are continuing to work, but right now we are sharing those maps per segment at each of our public meetings.
Will
And
Metro incorporate landscaping and enhance street furniture in areas with management districts?
Yes, we will be working with the management districts along the corridor in several points, not only in sidewalks, but also accessibility and access to the station. So we are looking at doing access plans in each of the stations. So we will be working with the management districts and the TERSs to see where there are opportunities for enhancement or for leverage of funding with some of the projects that they are already moving forward with, or perhaps taking on some of these access plans, and definitely looking at management districts to help with those in those areas. We also have, and we'll be moving forward with an art in transit program. And there's going to be opportunities there, not only for the management districts, for the community, but for a lot of feedback and enhancement in those areas.
Will Metro expand access to B-cycle stations at the new BRT stations?
So we are, like I mentioned, with those access plans, we'll be looking at opportunities where we are connecting to programmed or existing facilities that are either bike paths or bike lanes. So any bike facilities will be looking at connecting. And as we move forward with any bike share facilities, we definitely will be looking at those opportunities where we can make connections, because we want to make sure that people are connecting from one mode to another. So that's definitely something that we're looking at each of the stations. What are those opportunities around there?
Will your timeline conflict with the tech dot as they are tearing up Richmond and Wheeler when lowering Highway 69 through the Midtown Museum Alameda corridor?
We are working very closely with TxDOT in that area. With the Wheeler Transit Center specifically is an area that's going to be impacted regarding this project. However, at this time, we are looking at putting a station, making sure that we are minimizing the impacts as our project moves forward. And we have a project which is already the sort of like the reimagining of the Wheeler Transit Center in that area, because we have also not only TxDOT, but the Ion area is developing. So we are coordinating with multiple partners, the City of Houston, TxDOT, and the Ion, Rice, and their area, the church in that area, to be able to make sure that we are, this project, university project, will be minimized. The impacts to it will be minimized because we're going to be coordinating with them. But yes, there is definitely, we are looking at each other's schedules to make sure that we look at coordination and impacts to the community throughout the construction of this project. That is something that is very important to us, to make sure that we are keeping accessible neighborhoods and accessible paths for people to be able to walk through and move throughout the entire project. So we are coordinating with those partners who have projects coming forward.
Okay, the next question's long. I'm going to bridge it a little bit. The Eastwood Civic Association opposes this project. Why can't buses cross at grade, so saving the integrity of our neighborhood and millions of dollars?
So we are committed as part of this plan to providing bus rapid transit. And if we were at grade, we would be impacted by the railroad, the train stoppage on all of those crossings. This project goes through 4 different crossings, railroad crossings in this area. And if we were to be at grade, we would basically be, this will no longer be a rapid transit project, because we would be impacted greatly, like the communities, our existing communities are impacted, as we're aware of, with all the stoppage of the trains on the railroad tracks. And so that's why we are elevating the bus and the pedestrian space over the railroads at this time.
And just to add to that a little bit, I know the person asking this question would not be in favor of this, but we have heard from other people about what about bringing vehicle lanes over? So Metro is committed to not as part of the BRT project, as Johanna noted, only the BRT and potentially the ped bike access would go over with the BRT project, but we are committed to seeking funding from partners and other federal sources to potentially bring over travel lanes. Now that would be a parallel effort that would require ongoing communication with the neighborhood. Obviously there would be potential right-of-way impacts to that, so that would be a separate process. But Metro is committed to seeking funding and working with the each of the areas to determine whether or not they're interested in a grid separation going over for regular vehicles as well.
There is a roundabout planned at Canal at Lockwood. How will that be impacted?
So we have been working with the city. There is two pieces of the project on Lockwood. One of them, the city is going to be letting before our project, so that will be complete, and we have coordinated with them to make sure that all the pedestrian realm, they did some acquisitions and some negotiations. All of that would be within our footprint. So we are coordinating with them. They know our plans, and so we've coordinated that. The second part of the project is phase 2, which has the roundabout. And as we looked at this project along with the city, this area on Canal would be, we have a bus route going north-south in this area, and so it was important to maintain the connectivity. So the a station is planned for that particular location, and a roundabout and the station are not compatible. So we have worked with the city, and so at this time the roundabout will no longer be there. There will be a station instead that will serve those existing riders that go north-south in that, east-west in that section. So the BRT will be going north-south in that area. We have an east-west connection to Canal. And then because of the grid and the different, how everything is in that area, Canal is the closest intersection where we would provide opportunity for connectivity. Otherwise, bus connectivity would not happen, but much farther north or much farther south. So we, at this point, the roundabout will be replaced by a BRT station.
Regular signalized intersection at Canal.
Are there any plans for bike lanes as part of this project? How will cyclists be impacted?
We have a wider path right now planned, for example, along U of H on Elgin is a little bit wider, so it could be used as a shared use path. We have looked at the bike plan for the city of Houston. In several areas, there was no planned bike lanes, and so wherever there is bike lanes that were planned, we would implement, if it's possible, within the existing right-of-way. In other areas, as I said, as part of the first last mile connections for each of the stations, we're looking at if there is opportunity to connect to any existing facility or program facility along the corridor that is in those stations, we would be connecting to those facilities. The project will improve safety for pedestrians and for bicyclists and connectivity, because we are going to place crossings, safe crossings, pedestrians and bicycle crossings between full signalized intersections where there is large space between them. We are providing safe crossings for pedestrians and for bicyclists in those areas. In addition, on segment 1, for example, we have Metro-owned right-of-way for about 6 miles. And in that section, there will be a full 10-foot shared use path. So you will be able to go from the West Chase Transit Center all the way to the lower Uptown Transit Center. So that means basically Beltway 8 to 610 on a dedicated, on a facility that is dedicated both for pedestrians and, shared between pedestrians and bicyclists. So it's going to be a 10-foot facility in that section.
Will express overlay routes be run on this line, like bus services that use the infrastructure but skip some stops?
Not for this service. We are using that in other areas like the Westheimer in the future, but in this particular lane, we are our buses will be going during peak hours, basically 6-minute headways, meaning one bus will come every 6 minutes, and in the evenings on weekends every 12 minutes. The advantage of having this dedicated lane, however, is that emergency vehicles will be able to use the dedicated lane and not be stuck in traffic. So any emergency vehicles will be able to use the dedicated bus lane.
Will raised crosswalks be used in high pedestrian usage areas along this corridor?
That is one of the treatments that we might consider. We're working with the city to see where there are, different types of treatments for pedestrians. I think the University of Houston mentioned they would like to have a raised crossing at entrance 16 where we have a station. And so we will be considering those specific design treatments. We're not there yet because we're at 30%, but we're definitely going to be working. We've identified the locations. But we will be working with the city to see what the best design strategy is to provide the safest crossing for pedestrians and for bicyclists.
The segment between Kirby and the spur is a narrow right-of-way, 80 feet or less. Is there a way to make this segment grade separated?
So the question was, could you make it grade separated? I mean, from an engineering perspective, sure, you could, but it would be like if you think of the L in Chicago, down the middle of a kind of suburban like corridor, it would be unsightly, but you could do it. And it would be cost prohibitive as well.
Yeah, I mean, the reason we're doing elevated in other areas is because of the railroad, but in this section.
Will design schematics for the University Corridor project be posted on the METRORapid project website for public review?
Yes, we are right now in the process of sharing those with the community. We have printed boards, but as soon we'll be uploading that information into the website. So yes, there will be in the next couple of weeks that information will be posted on the website, just like we did during our first couple of rounds of public meetings. We have posted all of that information on the website. So it's the ridemetro.org/university.
What is the anticipated start date of the construction on Richmond? How long will construction take?
So
Go ahead.
Construction in general was slated to begin in 2025. For the entire project, it would run until around 2028. The timing for the specific areas in each segment has not been identified yet, but as we move forward, we'll continue to have public outreach, working with the community and business leaders in the area to make sure we don't have any undue damages and can maintain public access as much as possible through the corridor. So those details will be still to come. We'll have a robust outreach program that talks about construction, but it's not been identified yet.
Since the planned route goes through a low-density residential neighborhood on Lockwood, were other routes considered? And if so, why was Lockwood chosen? And I'm going to combine this with a question just above it. Why can't the route go down Wayside, where there is an existing underpass?
So we have looked at different parallel routes, such as Wayside, Jensen. I have to think of the other one. But in this particular location, we have one of the we looked at several different items to see what location would be the best for the north-south route of this project. And we have currently running there the 80 MLK Lockwood route, and is a very it's a high ridership route. So that is one. We have existing ridership there, and so it made sense. It's a high frequency route, and so it made sense for us to look at that as the main option. We do have there are crossings in other areas, but it would end up also crossing other railroads, and we have some projects in this, such as the Englewood Yard, that is already being done by TxDOT, and so there's already an investment that exists. So leveraging of funds is also something that we consider to make sure that we leverage as much funding as possible with other projects that are already existing. Some other areas have very industrial, in this corridors are heavily industrial. Lockwood has some industrial uses in it, but is really some residential and commercial where we would have ridership and growth and people to serve rather than going across areas that are very industrial and really don't serve the community that needs to be or wants to use transit.
I believe you mentioned the full route will be under construction at the same time. Is this correct?
What we said was there will be construction along the corridor, but we're not going to tear up 25 miles of the city at the same time. So the construction will be phased through each of the segments, but not everywhere all at once.
Will smart intersection technology be incorporated in the project to control and improve bus and vehicle traffic performance?
Yes, so we are is transit signal priority and in general, really the optimization of the functioning of the existing lights all along the corridor will be improved. So when we look at, we are going to be is an integrated system. So we will be improving the timing of those lights, and that will help both the existing traffic as well as giving priority to the bus rapid transit. So yes, it will definitely be considered, and it's something that we're working closely with the city to provide trans signal priority. It's a big part of the project, and it's a big part of the traffic consideration for the project all along.
And in addition to that, one kind of lesson learned long-term is Metro is committed to either, working with the city to make sure that there's funding to maintain all the signals so that the signal timing that is installed and works really great on day one will continue to work that way into the future.
Will there be any changes to bus route 25 on Wheeler between 288 and Emancipation?
Yes, so we are in general, nothing is finalized, but as we look and as we once the alignment is finalized, we are looking actively at how those other routes would be complementing this service, but we don't want to duplicate service. And we don't want routes to be, where there's only one lane of the BRT and then the next lane being occupied by a bus. So we are not going to have duplicative service where we only have one general purpose lane. And we're actively looking. So if you have any feedback regarding, areas that need to be better served with the rest of our bus routes, then that's what we're looking at. Like, how do we have the other services come to these bus stops or cross with these stations, so that we can better serve and have a better integrated system. So we will be evaluating the entire system where this route will be, where the bus rapid transit will be, to see how we can better serve the rest and how those routes that are existing on Lockwood and on Richmond, how they need to be modified for the entire alignment.
Will there be a connection from this rapid bus line to the green line near Lockwood, and can pedestrians from Eastwood get there?
Yeah, so there will be a connection. The station will be elevated over Harrisburg with either stairs or an elevator that goes down to the ground on Harrisburg, so with an easy connection. And one of the points that was made again earlier when there was a question about the ped access on the bridge, some of the members in the Eastwood Civic Association asked us about that, and they said that would be a great way for them to be able to get to and from the station. They could either walk across or take the METRORapid over to the Harrisburg station and get down. So we are looking at adding that ped bike walkway onto the bridge structure.
Will this project come down Lockwood Drive towards Bennington, Felix Cook Junior Elementary School, and on?
Yes, so on Lockwood, it starts on the Lockwood side. The Lockwood Street begins at Eastwood Transit Center, basically, so the north of 45 at that area, and then it will continue north past 610, continue north to go all the way to Tidwell, and on Tidwell Street it will turn left and then go over 59 and then continue or over the railroad, but under 59, and then continue to the neighborhood there where we have Tidwell Transit Center, and that's where this route will end. So it does go across Lockwood and continue north all the way to Tidwell on Lockwood.
And I just want to add on the question was about the schools at Bennington. So currently the METRORapid line is going to go over the railroad line, and we're going to be designing the access from either side. So we know now that children have a hard time getting back and forth across the railroad. So they'll be able to actually use the stairs and the elevators to go up across through the station and down the other side to have safe access across the rail line, where currently sometimes they have to crawl through the stopped trains to get back and forth across.
Next, will the buses be electric?
Yes, Metro is for this project and for the projects moving forward. We're looking at low to no emission vehicles procurement by the year 2030, and this project will have, that's what we're planning on having, low to no emission vehicles by the time that this project opens. Yes, it'll be served by low to no emission vehicles.
Are there any long-term plans to ensure that if capacity surpasses bus capacity, will the BRT lanes be able to be converted to light rail?
No, at this time, we are not, the infrastructure for light rail is different, and is not a convertible, infrastructure. So at this time, bus rapid transit is what we are, looking at. If anything, then we would increase the number, of buses, and we would increase the frequency of the buses that are coming through, but, it's not something that we can convert to rail.
Next is, will the Montrose Boulevard station require land acquisition?
Right now, there's just the land that's identified in that location is primarily for accessible ramps and some small property needed for the sidewalk, the pedestrian realm. So we do widen it out a little bit there because of the station and the left turn lanes. And so we do have some minor impacts in that area, but nothing significant.
And the West Park right-of-way incorporates solar panel covers for the shared use path in order to offset emissions from the non-transit transportation on the parallel toll road.
We are considering, different technologies and potential solar panels on the stations along the corridor, and wherever we can integrate, any innovative technology such as solar panels, we will try to do that. So we're, again, at this point, we're just 30% designed. Our stations are not completely designed. Right now, we know that it's, center platforms with a center column. But there's definitely, we are actively asking our designers to look at solar panel usage for the stations.
I've changed my drive route to work because of the delays in crossing Main Street. How are you planning to move traffic through the Main Street, Fannin, San Jacinto area with only 2 available automobile lanes that doesn't back up more than it does with 4 existing lanes?
So actually, the major kind of backup there is in the westbound direction in the PM primarily, and we will be maintaining 2 regular traffic lanes in the westbound direction to try to minimize the impact. We have also 2 lanes coming under the spur to Main Street in the eastbound direction. So we're working very closely with our partners there, the city and TxDOT, and understand that area is a real bottleneck, and have worked to try not to reduce the travel lanes in that really heavy congested area around the spur.
Who makes the final decision regarding Metro Next if we protest this plan?
So we have, the voters have approved the plan back in 2019. So we did public engagement at that time for the Metro Next plan as a whole, and almost 70% of the voters approved that plan. We are on the basis of that is how we are advancing these projects and all other projects of Metro. We are also going through, all the federal standards that need to be that are quite stringent because we are pursuing the CIG funding, capital improvement grants grant application through the New Starts program, which has very strict rules that we have to abide by, and so we are continuing to abide by those rules for this project. But the voters have, and if there's opposition. However, if we're looking at the NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act, to make sure that if this project goes through the lens of that, which that's what we're doing, and that's part of what we're as we advance to 30%, we'll also be completing that project, that analysis by the end of April. If there is no environmental impacts, we can continue to advance this project.
Will there be opportunities for collaboration on the design of each station, maybe a design competition?
So I think I had mentioned previously, we will incorporate art and transit into the stations to make the station's interior kind of unique. There will be a general uniform design for the shelters so that they can be identified as METRORapid stations, but there will be some ability to make them custom to each of the neighborhood through the art and transit program.
How can we ensure that the trees planted as part of this project will be maintained?
We have discussed, maintenance program for Metro, but also looking at our partners, management districts, to help with the maintenance. We understand that there's contracts that we need to put in place to be able to maintain the trees so that they stay alive for at least a couple of years. So we'll be working. We're also having a specific contractor looking at as an arborist and specialist to make sure that those trees that we're protected under construction, and then make sure that we have maintenance in place for them to stay viable as they grow.
Is property needed for the Mandel station, and will this station be east or west of the intersection?
We at that location, we have, again, minimal needs for ADA accessibility ramps and some minor needs as we accommodate the pedestrian realm. And I am trying to remember where that station is, if it's east or west.
I think it's east of the station.
Of the intersection.
Yeah, the intersection. And I just want to go back real quick to the last question. Johanna mentioned the maintaining the trees for a couple of years. What she's referring to there is that the contractor who does the installation will be required to maintain the health of the trees the initial 2 years. Of course, Metro will continue to maintain the trees moving forward from that.
What is the frequency y'all are aiming for on this project? More frequent than the silver line, I hope.
Yeah, so the METRORapid line, this project will run every 6 minutes during most of the day, and then on the weekends it'll run 12 minutes and in late night. So 6 minutes most of the time, just like the Metro Rail Red Line.
What is the average occupancy on various Metro lines? Or I guess we could answer, what is the capacity of these buses?
Capacity of the METRORapid vehicles, the 60-foot vehicles, the maximum capacity we use for planning purposes is 104. There's around 60 seats, and if you need to, like for major events, you could fit around 120 passengers on the bus.
And I just want to mention that if there's any questions we haven't answered that require a little bit more research, we will make sure to provide these online. That will be downloaded, all the questions from this event, and we will provide those as frequently asked questions, or there's questions from this particular event. We'll be placing that in a couple of weeks on the latest and on the website. So, and then we'll be making sure that we answer those questions as well. Excuse me.
Okay, one more question. How much of the annual operating expenses is paid from federal funds versus local funds?
We might need to back check this, but I do not believe that Metro receives any annual operating funds. My recollection is that would stop, but we'll verify that and get that response back online.
Okay, at this time we have reached the end of the Q&A. question box. So we want to thank you all again for joining us this evening. We are continuing to have in-person meetings throughout the corridor. Those are listed on our project website. Like Johanna mentioned earlier, we hope you can join us at some of those and see the maps in person. Please remember to visit the project website for all these dates and the maps and to sign up for updates. You can also provide your feedback there and sign up to be notified of other project updates.